worship, I love this kind of a gathering, and when we worship, I filled with the Spirit. I want to stay there as longer and longer. And back in India, one time we do a worship, and it lasted about 3 hours. We were just dancing around. I didn't get tired as well. I don't know how I did. If I stand for continually for 1 hour, my feet will pain and all those things. But when we worship God, we have that kind of, I think we got strength from God when we worship. But on the other side, following Christ is not only dwelling in His presence. Sometimes we have to step out and serve Him. When Jesus was here on earth doing miracles, healing people, feeding people, and doing miracles, He became quite famous. He became very famous, and a crowd was following Him. I think he might be a kind of a celebrity at that time. Oh, that's Jesus. That's Jesus, the one who healed the blind, the one who healed the lamb, and the one who, feed 5,000 with just a few loaves of bread and fish. So people want to associate with that kind of people who are famous. I think we all do in some sense. Like we have a BTS fan here. They're popular. They're good looking, smart, and they can sing well. So it's very easy just to follow the crowd and like they appreciate what they do. But on the other side, we never look at the thing that caused them, to come up with them. Here we see that here the cost of discipleship or the cost of following Jesus. That's what I put it in here. Let me come down there. I can't really see from here. And it's in Matthew 8, verse 18. And when Jesus saw great multitude about him, he gave a command to depart to the other side. Then a certain scribe came and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. What a big decision, wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man, who is talking about him, has nowhere to lay his head. What does that mean? To lay his head. He doesn't have an address. Doesn't have a permanent place to stay. I think all who came here, we have address, our postcode, the place where we go back, the place where we take rest. Jesus doesn't have a place to take rest. But Jesus said to him, follow, and then another of his disciples said to him, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Can you skip to the next one? And in Luke 14, 25, 20 to 25. Large crowd again were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brother and sister, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. Cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. I sometimes complain too much coming to church on Sunday. Sometimes I say, I wish there is no church. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Wouldn't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king, won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one who coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciple. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown away. Whoever has ears to hear, hear. So sometimes, when Jesus talks, it's hard to understand. If you don't hate your father and mother or your brother or sister or hate yourself, you cannot be my disciple. The cost of following Jesus was so high that most of the people who approach and say that Jesus, we want to follow you, we want to be part of you, and he said that this is what it's going to take. This is what it's going to take. Like we read it here, we read it there. Without having money, we can't start building a house where you can't finish it. So, can you go back a little bit? One more, come down. And when people saw the miracle, they all were excited to be part of Jesus, to be with. And here in John chapter, I forgot to put the chapter. It says to love God is to be hated by the world. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I choose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is no greater than his master. If they persecute me, it says, if they persecute me, they will also persecute you. If they keep my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they will have no sin, but now they have no excuse for the sin. This is, I think it makes it quite clear that if they hate me, they're going to hate you. That is what Jesus said. If the world hates me, they're going to hate you. In today's life, we try to please everyone. We don't want to annoy any people. We want to be in that zone where everybody feels comfortable. But when we look at it, there are sometimes we have to stand for God. A time where we have to say that, oh, this is not right. This is not about God. This is not the way that things has to be. If a church compromises with the world, it cannot shine out with light. And it died within itself. In the Bible, it says that you are the light of the world in many places. A light shine out to people so that they can find direction. If a light, like on a coastal, in some of the coastal area in the ocean, there will be a lighthouse. Have you seen a lighthouse? A lighthouse will be, there will be a light, and a tower will be there. There will be a light. It will, I think it revolves, move around like that. Why is that for? The youth? Why is the lighthouse for? For the fish in the sea? For boats. In case If there is someone who is lost in the sea, could find that there is a shore, that they could find their way to the shore. If it's too dark. Sometimes, many days, that light may shine just by itself without anyone, like no one finding him. But in case there might be someone who need to find a place. So sometimes we are called out to shine to this world, to give us, to shine out our light. We need to pay a price for that. We need to pay a price so that one person may get the right direction of life. We don't know how many days that the lighthouse is just rotating its light and no one really benefited for it. Might be a year, or might be a month, and months. Say, might say I'm just a waste. I'm just wasting my time giving up my light. But there may be one person who see that light and follow the direction. As a Christian, we need to shine out. Okay. Next one. Stop, is it? Oh. Where is that? There it goes. Where is that thing? I don't know. Let me try this one. It helps a lot. Oh, see. Who is a disciple? A fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ. The word disciple is used 250 times in the New Testament and is only found in the Gospels and Acts. I didn't really realize that. The disciple is only used in the Gospel and Acts, the book of Acts. The name Christian was given to the disciples through Paul and Barnabas. So when we talk about disciple, we may think that the disciple of Jesus. We may try to confine only to those the disciples of Jesus. But as it goes, the disciples have been replaced with the name Christian or something. Jesus gathered his disciples, trained them for 3 years, being with them with 3 years, and empowered them with the Holy Spirit after the resurrection, and command them, now it's time to go. He said, now it's time to go. Go to the whole world, preach the gospel, baptize them, make disciples. It cost their life. It cost their life. Do you know this Bonhoeffer? You know Stu? Yeah. Bonhoeffer is a German theologian. He's such a good. He said salvation is free, but discipleship, following Christ, will cost your life. I think he's quite true. Bonhoeffer was a German pastor and theologian known for his opposition to the National Socialism. He ties to the July 20, 1994 conspiracy to overthrow the Nazi regime and led to his execution in 1945. He have to pay the cost for standing up for God. And yeah, a lot of his books and that. So what price did the disciple of Jesus has to pay? You know how old did they die? All the disciples. I tried to collect this, I don't know. Peter was crucified around 66 AD in Rome under the persecution of Emperor Nero. He was crucified upside down because he didn't consider himself worthy to die the same way Jesus did. They crucified him upside down. The story goes, there was a persecution in Rome at that time. The church people say that, oh Peter, if you happen to die and we will be left without a leader, so can you escape? So he escaped. On his way to escape, he met Jesus. You know Quo Vadis? The book Quo Vadis. It's a nice book to read. And Jesus said Quo Vadis to Peter. And Quo Vadis means where are you going? Jesus stood in front of him, saying, Peter, Quavitis, where are you going? Peter couldn't continue. He has to go back and say, I cannot do this. And, he was caught and he was crucified. He said, I'm not worthy to die like my Christ. And he was crucified upside down. James was the first of the 12 to be put to death. King Herod had him killed by the sword in Jerusalem in Acts chapter 12. John is the only one who was not put to death for his faith. I think he was the one who wrote this Revelation. He was in one island, in one island where he can't really move around. Andrew, he traveled north to what is now Russia and the western region of the former Soviet Union. He later traveled Turkey and Greece, where he was murdered. Philip ministered in North Africa and the Asia Minor. Tradition says that a Roman proconsul was so engaged that his wife had converted to Christianity because of Philip's preaching that he had Philip brutally put to death. So Bartholomew, some account of him going to India. It says that they go to India and so he was murdered for his faith somewhere in the Arabian region. Matthew traveled to modern day Iran and then down to Ethiopia. Some accounts do not include how he died, but others say that he was stuck to death in Africa. Thomas. When we talk about Thomas, what did it come to your mind? Doubting Thomas. Now, Thomas said, yeah, I'm something like that, Thomas. I doubt every people. It's so funny. Thomas traveled to East Syria and Iraq to preach the gospel, eventually ending up in India. The Mar Thoma tradition says that Thomas died by stabbing at the hands of 4 soldiers. I haven't visited this place, but there is a mountain, and at those times, they say that he was preaching and he was converting people. People come to Christ, and the people out there, the Hindu, they didn't like him. Those people are converting, and so they cornered him, and he ran up to the mountain, and they cornered him with a spear. They pierced him that, and the mountain is still there, and people used to go and visit that. And James, the son of Alphaeus, James is believed to have been preaching the region north of Israel. He was stoned and then clubbed to death. Philip, tradition says that he preached in Syria region of Asia Minor, modern day Turkey. He was murdered for his faith in Jesus in the town of Hierapolis. Judah Thaddeus, tradition holds that he preached the gospel in the area we could think of as northern Syria, Iraq, and Turkey. He was said to have been killed with arrows in Turkey's mountain northern region. Matthias, this is not Matthew, Matthias. Tradition says that Matthias traveled north, possibly as far as the Caspian Sea. He was murdered for his faith, although the method of his death was not mentioned. And we have Paul. I think we all know Paul. He suffered for the Lord throughout his life. In addition to the imprisonments and the multiple threats to his life, Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 25 that 3 times I was beaten with Rome. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. Once I spent the whole night and day adrift at sea. Paul was beheaded in Rome in 66 AD, possibly at the same time as Peter. When Jesus called them, said, follow me, it cost their life. And why do you think that they choose to suffer while they have the opportunity to be a normal person? See, when you read those things, hardly you will see that those people died locally. They travel preaching the gospel, taking the gospel to the people who haven't heard the gospel. What do you think they choose to suffer? Let's just have a kind of a small discussion if you.
Is it worth it?
It's worth it, okay?
Do they know him?
They know him. It's worth it, they know him. It's a good point. Anything, Ola Dusu, anything comes to your mind?
Because they know after the suffering is enjoyment.
After the suffering?
It's enjoyment.
Enjoyment.
After the death, there is life.
Okay.
Through Jesus Christ.
So youth, any idea? Why do they choose to suffer for Christ? Why do they choose to die for? To die is something, but to suffer a long suffering is painful. But still, they didn't give up. They go. Romans chapter 8, 6, 18. Can you read this one? Anyone? I think the answer lies there. What is it? Can you take the Bible or anything? Can you read what is there? No. Romans chapter 8. I think this is what I found, like why they choose to.
For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed in us.
The suffering which we have it here, we cannot compare with the glory that's await us. They see things which normally people didn't see. For them, life doesn't end in this world. There is something which is waiting for them. Wow. Those people who run a marathon, they're chasing for the finishing line. Because there is a finishing line, there is a trophy. For us, no matter how much we suffer, no matter how difficult life is as a follower of Christ, that's not the end. There is something which is waiting for us. If we look our life here on earth only, we may be disappointed. But if we look things that is above, which is in heaven, that is the trophy that they are running for. Not for the blessing, only for this world. So, one of our leaders, like John Pudaike, he is the son of the founder of the Bible for the World. In his talk, he said, we are all called to follow Jesus, but we all didn't respond the same. I think he put it quite well. Jesus calls everyone in this room. Jesus called every one of us. The way we respond may be different. See, God called Abraham and Jonah. You know who is Abraham? You know Abraham? Yeah. And do we know Jonah?
Yes.
What is Jonah famous for? Huh? It's run away from God. He was in a fish belly for how many? 3 weeks?
3 days.
3 days. You read the Bible, good, you know. God called Abraham and Jonah. They respond in different ways. What do you remember about Jonah? The Bible did not bother to record more of his life. I tried to find how did Jonah die. There is no record. If you read the book of Jonah, it ends, there is no more continue. And I think we all know the life of Jonah. It's complaining. Why sun is too hot? Why is this happening? This and that. Why, so many things. even though he responded to the call, but he didn't really, be there. So so we can see ourselves, we are called by God. And where is our response? Are we response? Is our response something like Abraham? When God called Abraham, what did he ask? Mirror? Then? What did he ask to do? Paul? Okay, he asked 3 things. Others. What other things? He asked to leave.
Leave his homeland.
Leave his homeland?
Sacrifice his son.
No, that's a bit later.
Oh.
When he called. Leave his homeland. Father
Father of nations.
There are 3 things. His homeland, his relatives, and there was 3 things, sorry. Which he has to give it up. It is not easy to give up your people, your land, your culture. So it is not easy, but he obeyed. He obeyed to it and he responded. So in the early Christian, without suffering for Christ, they can't really call themselves as a Christian. I read the book of early Christian persecution. I left it in there and I tried to recall it back. And in one place, what they wrote is that everybody will have a mark on their body, like a scar, or like a whip sign or a knife sign, because of the persecution. Then they say that we carry the sign in our body. We carry the sign of being a Christian in our body. We carry the sign of being a follower of Christ in our body. Somebody might have lost their hand. Somebody might have some mark on their body. And they know that to be a Christian is to suffer. And even till today, I think many people in Middle East, they say that if we have to become a Christian, we have to suffer. Many people in India, they are put away from all the benefits, put aside, and the price that they pay for being a follower of Christian is sometimes say, oh, this is too much. This is unfair. This is injustice. But those are the people who pay the price. And so sometimes it's good to see, good to know that what price am I paying in following Christ? I complain too much about, even yesterday and the day before, I said, busy too much. Sometimes we love ourselves too much. Yeah. Jesus gave everything for us. And that's the end of it. Yeah. So we enjoy being in the presence of God. Being in the presence of God, that is the blessing side of life. And to end up with, in Russia, those times where it was a communist was so strong that they didn't allow people to worship, and some few Christians were gathering in a small room quietly. They locked all the door and the windows, and they lighted some candles, and they were praying, singing some hymns. Suddenly, the door was knocked open. 2 army came in with an automatic gun, saying, if anyone wants to denounce Christ, it's time for you to leave. Two people slip away. And he said, we are giving you another time. If anyone wants to denounce Christ, we are giving you some more time. So few people left again. And then they said, are you ready to die now? I said, yes, we are ready. And they said, don't put down your hands. Continue worshiping your God. We are going to join you. We are Christian. And we don't want to worship with those who doesn't want to die, who are not ready to die for the sake of Christ. So I said, wow. When I read that one, I said, wow. So sometimes our faith will have to pay something because of our faith for faith in Jesus. So that is what I have for today. These days, that is what moved me, like the love of God, the Lord, to step out for the love of God. Yeah, thank you, church.